students. Welcome back to our husbandry topic. And we're going to finish up our notes here so that we have more time to watch some interesting videos at the end of today's lesson. So let's jump over to our topic for today, husbandry. And yesterday, you may recall, we talked about selective breeding and hybridization. Well, today we're going to pick up with number 3. The third method of husbandry is called inbreeding. And although it may sound inappropriate, you are probably very familiar with inbreeding. Let me explain why. First, in general, inbreeding can be described as the crossing of plants or animals that have the same set of genes. What exactly does this mean? Well, you can see the example of the snakes on the left, but let me talk about the dogs on the right. How many of you have ever heard of dog breeds? Yeah, dog breeds. Dogs can be bred for certain characteristics or traits that are desirable. And did you know, however, that purebred dogs oftentimes, and this goes for other purebred animals as well, but purebreds do tend to be prone to certain genetic challenges. For instance, and we've mentioned this before when we were talking about genetics earlier in the year, but purebred dogs, large breed dogs like German Shepherds, they are prone to hip dysplasia, skeletal problems. Other dogs like, what are they, pugs, I think, those dogs with the squished in snouts, they are very prone to nasal issues, and nasal cavity issues, and breathing problems. But how are dogs bred in the first place? Well, unfortunately, there are many dog breeds or dog breeders that don't really follow good practices. Now don't get me wrong, there are plenty of good dog breeders out there as well. But dog breeders that aren't that, I'll just say, good, and try to find cheaper ways of breeding certain dog characteristics, what they may do is practice inbreeding a little bit more than they should. So what exactly does that mean? Well, what it means is, let's look at this picture. We may have two dogs that have a desirable characteristic, and those two dogs may produce offspring, offspring that have certain desirable characteristics. Well, that offspring might be bred with other members of their family in order to produce offspring with the same characteristics. In other words, it narrows down the gene pool dramatically. And when you dramatically downsize the gene pool, you magnify the possibility of genetic malformalities or malformations or whatever the word might be. And so this can be done with dog breeds, the production of breeds of dogs or horses that are trying to achieve a very specific characteristic, but in so doing may result in a very narrow gene pool that results in some potential problems. So horse breeds, dog breeds, chicken breeds are just some of the examples of animals that are bred very specifically for very specific purposes. But in this inbreeding, as I mentioned, there is a lack of genetic diversity. And this lack of genetic diversity can be a weakness, a genetic weakness, a physical weakness that can result in undesirable effects in future offspring. And really, the only way to counteract that is to increase the gene pool by opening up the breeding to other members of the species with what might be perceived as undesirable characteristics, but enable the gene pool to be expanded once again. So you really have to be careful when getting purebred animals to really know, especially dogs, in to be really sure about the lineage or the family tree of that particular offspring, making sure that it hasn't been inbred too much. All right, so inbreeding again can be used both with plants and animals in order to develop a desired trait, but it can result in genetic weakness as a result of a lack of genetic diversity. That brings us to number 4. Number 4, perhaps the most controversial and maybe the most misunderstood, is cloning. Cloning is the producing of offspring that are genetically identical to parents. I have some really interesting videos to show you about cloning, and I can't wait to talk about this method of husbandry more after the videos I link you to. But some examples, some common examples of cloning might include seedless grapes or seedless watermelon or spider plants and other numerous other plants for that matter. But all of these are examples of cloning. I mean, think about it for a moment. Can you plant a grape to produce another generation of grape vines if there are no seeds? Or watermelons? The answer obviously is no. You need the seeds. The only way to produce a seedless grape is to selectively breed smaller and smaller seeds until there are no seeds left, in which case you can't plant them again. You've got to clone them genetically in order to produce grapes that don't produce any seeds. Same with watermelons and other plants. And there are other critters that can be cloned as well, as you will see in the videos that I will link you to here today. So cloning, grapes, watermelon, spider plants, these are more common things that experience cloning. But instead of me talking about these things anymore right now, I'm going to link you to the videos. And I'd like you to watch the videos that I'm going to link you to. And I'd like us to engage in some discussion and conversation about cloning and the other methods of husbandry before the end of this period. So that'll be it for this video. Nice and short. Your lesson notes are complete. Tomorrow we'll be doing a lab activity. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'll simply say bye-bye.